the EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at the eppodcast.com.
We got a packed show this week. Lots going on. So I know I talked about the idea of a contest, a search for a new co-host to sit down here at the 9-Foot Homemade Oak Bar. We do not have the rules ready. The contest is not ready to launch. A lot of people already reaching out to ask about it. Trust me, we'll get to it at the end of the month. But we are packed on today's episode. And then next week, we have all the coverage from the parade. For the first time ever, instead of being alongside the parade route, the EP Podcast in the parade this Friday. Can't wait to see ya. Everybody's worried about rain. Last thing I saw was 75% chance that it doesn't rain during that time. We're going to be with the First National Bank of Evergreen Park, the float, which is actually an old-time fire truck. I may be walking next to it, but I think I'm going to be riding on the fire truck. They may even have a microphone for me for the parade route. I'm so excited to be marching with the First National Bank of Evergreen Park. They're our proud sponsors, corner of 95th and Pulaski, big iconic building, you know what it is. There's no overdraft fees, there's no ATM charges no matter what ATM you use anywhere. They got the student checking accounts if you got kids going away to school. They link it all up with the online banking tools and the app. And when you walk in there, there's people sitting at desk who are ready to help you. Want a home loan, want a refi? Want to ask a question that only a banker would know? They're right there, 95th and Pulaski, the First National Bank of Evergreen Park, member FDIC. Frank Murray is on the show, and we're going to Spoken Vine to have some sangria during his segment. But first, this past weekend here in Evergreen Park, another summer concert in the park at Klein Park occurred. Cokes and folks were out there, and the next show is on July the 14th. With one of the bigger acts that comes through each and every year. And this is the first time that we have had somebody from the Neverly Brothers on the show. They'll be performing at Klein Park at 6 p.m. on July the 14th. That is a free show. Kevin Giragosian is on the line with me right now. How are you, Kevin?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. First off, your brother's in this band with you, but your last name is not Neverly. Explain that to me.
Well, the origins of the band goes back to the year 2003 when I put it together as a combination of mostly Everly Brothers songs and Beatles songs, because Everly Brothers, Phil and Don Everly, were the inspiration for John and Paul to sing in their style of harmony. They imitated the Everly Brothers' harmonies. So I used the name Everly, but to put a little twist on it and said Neverly. But our logo looks kind of like the Beatles logo on Ringo's bass drum. We just kind of became that as far as the band goes. And when we go and perform in concert, we actually introduce ourselves with our real names, not Neverly, but Neverly. Like, I'm not Kevin Neverly, so to speak. I'm Kevin Giragosian.
Right.
He's Kevin Giragosian, my brother.
I know who you are. I was just confused by the whole thing. So, I mean, you guys are putting on quite a show. I've heard a lot about when this band comes into Evergreen Park. You've been doing shows here for a while, years now, where you're coming in, you're doing the free concert in the park. It always gets a really good crowd. People are excited when you're here. If somebody hasn't been to one of your shows, you mentioned the Beatles, you mentioned the Everly Brothers. What do they expect to see on stage in front of them that night?
The Everly Brothers and the Beatles was the inspiration, and that's where the name came from. But then within the first 3 years, it evolved into more of a show of rock and roll history, not just the influence of the Everly Brothers on the Beatles, which to me was the 50s influencing the 60s, or the American music influencing the British invasion bands, but it became a more of a well-rounded, you might say, show where we do a sampling of artists in the first set of the 1950s pioneering rock and roll artists and recording artists. And the second half is the 1964 British invasion. It pretty much doesn't go past 1965. So if anybody has never attended a Neverly Brothers show, shame on you. If you like this era from 1955 to 1965, our show is very unique, very entertaining, very engaging. It's interactive with the audience. It's educational. What we do is we create this whole aura of the audience is a group of passengers on our virtual tour bus. So the venue whether we play in a theater or if it's an outdoor setting in a park, like at Evergreen Park. We say we're going to convert this entire park into our own virtual tour bus. You folks are now the passengers. We're the tour guides, and we're going to set the time machine to 1957. And we start this tour going from city to city in America. In their minds, I narrate as sort of the tour guide and the front man of the group between songs to tell them where we're going next. So we go to one city. For example, Sun Records recording studio. It's located in Memphis, Tennessee. That's usually our first stop because that's kind of like the epicenter of early rock and roll in America. And we do a little vignette with the $1 Million Quartet artists, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash. Move on to another city like Lubbock, Texas, where Buddy Holly was from, and we do the little vignette on the day the music died in 1959 when he died in the plane crash along with the Big Bopper and Richie Valens. Go to another city like St. Louis, Chuck Berry, Eddie Cochran from Minnesota. And so we take people on this little trip, it's sort of in their minds and also visually with the wardrobe. We have a wardrobe that changes for each set, so we look like these Memphis sort of rockabilly 50s guys with matching silver suits, yokes on the shoulders, kind of country and western, but rockabilly, string ties. And so each city is where a different artist was from or recorded. I give a little bit of tidbit of information, history, their influence, and their importance on laying the foundation of rock and roll, and then move on to another city. And so we round out our first set by saying what we've given you is a sampling of 1950s pioneering rock and roll artists, which we call the American roots to the British invasion. This is the music that the British groups picked up on and initially imitated before writing their own music. So we kind of do a wardrobe change. We take a break. Now we look like the Beatles on Ed Sullivan in 1964. And we mentioned their appearances on that show in February of 64, 3 consecutive Sundays, which was just exploded. And Beatlemania started. The British invasion started. So we now take our tour into Britain or England, and we do the same thing. I'm the tour guide. Now we're going from city to city in England. Started in Liverpool with the Beatles, play a few songs, move on to another city like Newcastle, which is where the Animals are from, let's say. And some of these bands I'm mentioning doesn't mean we're gonna play all of them, but they are often interspersed in the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say this sounds like a 5-hour concert. I was excited about it, but I mean, that's a lot of bands you have to cover there. And what's amazing is you're putting on like a show, like you said, it's almost like a history lesson. It's a show. It's a journey. It's not you just going back and playing a time period and everybody just sits back and reminisces. There's more to this.
Yes, it's definitely very unique because of the historical educational value. And I don't want to say sound too academic or highbrow, but people learn a lot. Even people who grew up in the era didn't know certain facts or certain songs were originally recorded by American groups that were then recorded later by British bands that even popularized it further to a wider appeal. So, and one of the other unique aspects of the show is that the second half, when we do the British invasion music, most of the songs, I would say 90% of them, are songs that those British bands re-recorded that were originally recorded by American artists first. So it shows a real timeline on rock. It shows the birth, death, and resurrection. It shows how these British bands revived it with a revival by just basically performing and recording the songs they loved that were either fading away or not being heard enough. Great example is Twist and Shout, the Beatles, 1963, on their first album they recorded that was released in England. And it was a big hit in 64 in America. Originally, that song was recorded in 1962 by the Isley Brothers, an American rhythm and blues singing group. So it shows that whole progression of rock and the evolution of rock. So we also sort of call it a rock and roll evolution that we present to people as well, with wardrobe changes and unique instrumentation. There's only 3 of us. My brother plays the drums. Kegum is his name, Kegum Giragosian. He stands up. He's shoulder to shoulder with us. There's no drum riser behind us like Ringo or one of the traditional ones. He's to my right. Our bass player is to our left. So Kegum is playing the drums, standing up with a bass drum and a snare drum and no cymbals, no hi-hat, brushes, but he creates a heck of a lot of rhythm on that snare drum. It sounds like a full drum kit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he sings lead along with me. We're like the Phil and Don Everly or the Paul and John of the group. Our bass player, Mike Bradburn, plays an upright bass fiddle. He's to my left. and he sings background and harmonies. So we fill in a lot with the harmonies. I play guitar, and it's sort of a acoustic electric hybrid sound. It's actually the guitar that John Lennon used to play in the early Beatles days. There's nothing that's lacking. Nobody misses anything, even though there's only one guitar and three guys. It's a very, very full sounding group without any pretend backing tracks or artificial sounds. It's all organic. It's all real. It's a very unique and entertaining show. We've been playing at the Evergreen Park and Rec concert series since 2008 every year. We've become their number one draw, so they hire us every year, and it's usually in July, like the one coming up on the 14th of July, Sunday, in a few weeks.
I am curious, and you just did the plug for me, so I'll say it again. July 14th, Neverly Brothers, 6 p.m. at Klein Park. You're talking about all these songs that are from yesteryear, let's say, and you played, I'm looking at your bio, you were in a band back in the 90s, and you've been a musician for a long time. And I'll tell you, as somebody that in the late 90s was doing rock radio and knew how separated music was by how old people were, different generations listen to different things. You must be just as taken aback as I am, looking at the current younger generations and how they still love not only music from the 90s, but the music you're playing. Those used to just be oldies, what you're playing. But people seem to have a greater appreciation, at least for the best songs of that era. It's surprising to me that they haven't disappeared yet, and you're going to get a reaction from all age groups from certain bands, don't you think?
We do. We get it's the universal music. It's the origins of rock and roll, that timeless period. I mean, some of the 50s songs don't translate as well because of the recording equipment wasn't as advanced. So by the time the Beatles came around, it was a lot better fidelity. Albums were still in mono, but then became stereo. They were using better miking techniques. So part of it is the quality of the recordings, and also it's songs that people can sing along to. Where today, I mean, I grew up in part of the 60s, but I identify with the British invasion the most. I love that era, the Beatles, the Kinks. Especially are my two favorite groups, probably of all time. But I also grew up in the 70s, so, any of the pop stuff I liked. But the music is sort of timeless, and it hasn't gone away. It's kind of like Mozart, in a way, or classical music, Mozart, Beethoven. That stuff's probably going to be around forever because it was original music at the time, and it was a new sort of movement. And rock and roll, this was the foundation, and anything that's played today, you could trace it back to that early, either the 1950s or the 1960s. From like 1955 to 1965, there hasn't been too much that's been done new as far as the way songs are put together. It's all electronics and sounds and electronic sounds now that have advanced. But songwriting, I don't think you can get any better than those eras as far as songwriting goes.
So the summer concerts going on in Evergreen Park has become an annual thing. The list of bands that are coming up after you, the Smiley Tillman Band on the 2nd of August at Sexton Park, Rick Lindy and the Wild Ones on August 11th at Klein Park, City Lights Orchestra September 2nd back at James Sexton Park. But you mentioned it. You guys have been doing this now for years. You draw huge crowds. Is there a little bit of you that takes like a pride in saying we want to be the biggest show of all the shows in the summer in Evergreen Park?
Oh, of course. That's part of the aspiration to be successful and all the work you put into it. You want to be as successful as possible. You want to draw the biggest crowds. You want to be, popular. That's the whole idea. This is the whole idea of being in a band or an act like ours. I mean, I believe, just if I'm not mistaken, I think the place we're playing is Circle Park.
Yeah, they've named it Klein Park a couple years ago. It's the same thing, Circle Park, Klein Park. It depends on what side of the tracks you live. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure because I had it down at Circle Park all these years. But no, I take pride. It's like being in business. I mean, I'm a businessman also. My brother and I used to have a record store years ago, in the mid-'80s, mid-'90s at Orland Park. So the business side, I mean, is one half of my brain. The creative and music side is the other half. And you always want to be successful, obviously. And if you want to make a living at it, it's very difficult to play bars. So we were lucky enough to have an act that evolved into something that was much more than just a bar band or a cover band playing songs one after another. It developed as part of my personality and part of my brother's style on the drums and my style on guitar. It evolved with this whole concept that was created and gelled within the first 3 years. And so when we're not doing the outdoor summer shows, mid-September to mid-May, we're traveling the country as a national touring headline theater act. Many in the area, like not far from Evergreen Park, we played at the Beverly Arts Center on 111 Western several times. We just played there earlier this year. So we do a lot of theater shows. So we're really a concert theater experience more than just a rock cover band, let's say. So that's what differentiates us. We're in the tribute category because we're paying tribute to two eras, but we're not a traditional tribute act where we're trying to talk like a particular band or look like a particular band. And there's nothing wrong with those groups. There's a lot of talented groups out there that do that. But ours is a very unique niche. We have a tribute act that's paying tribute to two eras, the two seminal early rock and roll eras.
Kevin Giragosian, one of three that are part of the Neverly Brothers. They will be out at Klein Park or Circle Park, if you're nasty, 6 p.m., July the 14th. Kevin, thanks so much for jumping on the EP podcast. I look forward to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. Look forward to meeting you. Thanks.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them. It's now time for your EP podcast, Word on the Street, brought to you by sidsauce.net, the only place I get my hot sauce from. I have like 4 or 5 different bottles right now up in the cabinet as we speak. They're growing the peppers here in Evergreen Park. They bottle up the sauce, and if you live right here in the area, they bring them to your door for free. See everything they have to offer at sidsauce.net. The parade kicks off on Friday at 6:30 p.m. Everybody's worried about rain. Again, I'm telling you, I'm looking at my app right now. Around that time, 25% chance of showers. I see that as 75% positive that we're going to have good weather. I'll see you along 95th Street on Friday. I will not see you on 99th Street because CSX has the crossing closed right by the high school, 99th and Rockwell, all the way through July the 3rd. As they always say, this work is critical to safety for the train and the roadway traffic. Meanwhile, we're all annoyed by it. CSX did give out a phone number if you want to talk to them about it, 800-232-0144. Have fun. And this Sunday, June 30th, 10:30 in the morning, St. Bernadette will be celebrating their final Mass, a very sad thing for that community. At the conclusion of the Mass, the congregation will then be processing by car as the crucifix and tabernacle are being transported to Queen of Martyrs. In fact, we had Fire Chief Ron Kleinhaus on to talk about how EPFD is helping with this transportation. Between noon and 1 p.m., this procession will start at St. Bernadette, Francisco to 93rd, 93rd to California, California to 99th, 99th to St. Louis. So it's going right by my house. Oh, I'm going to see it. St. Louis to 103rd, 103rd to Central Park. Police will be closing each section for about 5 minutes, so it's not going to be a major closure. With that, we head out on the road for Frank Murray, the Evergreen Park Library July plans, and Sangria. The EP podcast at Spoke and Vine with Frank Murray.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, I decided that I wanted to get you out in front of people. We got the camera set up, so if you're listening to the audio, don't worry, there's going to be a video of it on our YouTube channel and out on the social medias and stuff like that, because we're going to be tasting sangria, and we're going to be talking about what you have going on at the library for the next month. So it's going to be a good, solid afternoon.
I love it. Big thanks to Spoken Vine, to Reed, and to Bridget for letting us come out here. And I got to say, as much as I love the homemade 6-foot bar, Spoken Vine, really great place.
Don't
really great place.
Not 9-foot bar, but this is a beautiful place. This is a beautiful place, and we're going to bring them in actually right now. We'll bring in Reed and Bridget, who have been running this place at the northeast corner of 95th and Kedzie for now. What are we? We're at a year at least now, right? Or we're close.
Yeah, the 23rd marks 1 year.
Congratulations. That's awesome. That is really, really cool. That's it. It's all coasting from here. That's what every business owner knows. You just get to that year, you can just put your feet up, right? No, you cannot.
There's definitely none of that.
This guy's working.
Up.
Yeah, he's working so hard. He's got his arm in a sling. That's how much they care here at Spoken Vine. So before we have Frank go through all the stuff that's going on at the library, I want to kind of get him lubed up a little bit. He's a little looser. Maybe he'll be funnier in this one if we can just get him a couple of drinks in him. So we have 4 different kinds of sangria. You guys are releasing this when?
Punch Party.
What's the date on it? It's the last Thursday of June, right? Is when you're putting it out? Or
yes.
Okay.
June 27th.
June 27th, Punch Party. Yeah, it's deceptive because people might think it's punch,
but
but
June 29th on Saturday.
Okay.
So like if you're doing stuff on Thursday and are busy, Saturday's more of your get out and have a few sangrias kind of day. Yeah.
Bridget, why don't you take me, or Reed, whichever one wants to do it, take me through the ones you have. Start with that one down there because I know Frank wants to taste it.
Okay, so the one on the end is a Sangria Rosé. It actually tastes quite like grapefruit. It's got grapefruit and oranges and lemon and lime. It's fantastic. The one next to it is our traditional red sangria. So it's a Spanish Grenache that we've put oranges, lemons, and limes in. They're all really good, but I made them, so I know. Then we have a peach sangria, very much on the sweeter side, really, really tasty, and then a traditional white sangria on the end with more lemon, lime, and apple.
That's the one I wanted to taste. We talked about it ahead of time. I swear, I did not steal one that somebody else was going to have. I wanted to try the peach, which is really good. I mean, I called dibs. Well, I mean, you brought out 4 different kinds, and I was like, what kind of sangria have I never had? I've never had a peach sangria. Have you done this before? Have you done sangria? Is this the first time ever?
This is first.
Okay,
yeah.
so what I want to know next time we talk is how many people you see after they finish it trying to suck the last of the sangria out of all of the fruit, because that's something that happens in the Lanuti household when we do sangria. Is that what you do?
It will be all of them. It is always all of them. So
everybody's like, I'm just being healthy eating fruit. Yeah.
It's like our carrots. We tell people they help you see better.
You guys are open on parade day too, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, what's the hours? Because I'm going to stop by.
3 to 10 on Friday, parade day. It'll be a great spot for you to come in before the parade and kind of secure your viewing
Yeah,
spot.
You're right here on 95th. Yeah.
Also, the air conditioning is a nice little respite.
Yeah, you need that.
And the sangria.
And the sangria.
Yeah.
So come in before, during, after.
And when your teenagers abandon you, come on in.
It's what's happening to me this summer. That's exactly what's happening. All right, Reed and Bridget, this stuff's awesome. Frank and I are going to get hosed now while we sit here and talk about the library. No, we'll be very responsible till the camera goes off. One of my favorite.
I just wish this was going on later in the day.
Frank,
then I could really camp out here.
Oh yeah, well Frank's like, well,
this.
I'm working. I got my placard on. I got my little badge on.
Should have kept the badge on.
But this is all part of promoting the librie. Just keep telling yourself that for the next 10 minutes or so.
Tell my library board that, Chris. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what you tell them.
He's
doing it for work.
For the community.
Northeast corner, 95th and Kedzie, and I'm going to grab a seat and we're going to talk about what you got going on at the library. And this is going to make the entire experience better.
Well, on all the video people
we're
get to
doing this
see
from
me.
now on at Spoken
They
Vine.
get to see. It's really awesome. The setup is awesome. I almost want to pull up one of those comfy chairs and go hang out over there.
There's like a book club that comes in here, right?
You
on
got
Thursdays?
It. Yes,
There's a book club that comes in here on Thursday, and what better than wine and books?
Exactly. That's our
Books
pop-up.
are better with
It's our
wine.
pop-up book club
Yeah.
at Spoken Vine, and that's this next Thursday, the 27th.
Yeah, it'll be
June
this Thursday
27th.
by the time this airs.
By
I know
the
I
time
throw
it
you
airs.
off when
You
we
do.
record, and then it comes out the next week. So yeah.
So it's
this
at
Thursday it's coming
6:30,
out.
and
Yeah.
if you haven't picked up a book already, want to join the club, come on out, even if you haven't read the book yet. But we have copies at the library, and of course, the amazing ambiance that Spoken Vine provides.
Awesome. All right, what do you got going on that's big in the month of July? I know you're marching in the parade. Everybody's in the
Holy
parade,
cow.
so we're just going to be looking for you in the parade. I don't want you to spend a lot of time on that unless there's something crazy happening.
I'm going to start with our kids. We have every year we do a tie-dye creation shirt that's huge. We get our parking lot packed. That's going to be Wednesday, July 3rd at 3:30 p.m. Make sure you bring your own washed white cotton t-shirt. You are using stains that will dye your clothes that you're wearing, so make sure you'll wear old clothes and shoes. But it's a lot of fun. It's always a big hit. And then because it's also kind of the summer of insects and nature with the cicadas, right?
Yeah.
We are having...
Not a lot of them in Evergreen, though.
No, I mean
there's
older
a couple
trees,
of,
Chris.
There's a couple of trees that have them like spotty around the neighborhood.
You drive down the street and you can hear one section of them all chirping.
Yeah, my sister lives in Beverly. She says it's horrifying. It's so loud. They're everywhere. She just doesn't even want to be around her own home. She comes here and she's like, "How many you got in your pool?" I'm like, "I had one this week. I had one cicada in my pool. I had one cicada."
She's like, "My filter's clogged." It's just cicadas all on top of the
Evergreen
pool.
Park, your respite from cicadas.
There we go. And enjoy some sangria.
Put it on
Spoken
the
Vine.
sign. Put it on the sign for the village. Cicadas are not welcome here. I don't know what the village did, but it's amazing if they did anything to stop them. There are none of them here. It's incredible.
Just Evergreen Park. I guess they don't like evergreen trees. I don't know.
All right, so it's
we'll have to learn more because we got Bugs Alive coming. The Peggy Notebart Nature Museum will be at the library on Thursday, July 11th at 10 a.m. It's for grades 1 and 2, but if you're interested, come on out for it. You get a chance to observe some live insects, folks. Live insects, and learn about the ways they move, they eat, and how they protect themselves.
Okay.
And then following that up, we're going to have some reptiles. So the same day, Thursday, July 11th at 11 a.m.
You got to be careful there. Reptiles will eat the insects.
Yes, so we're going to really learn how those insects protect themselves.
And now, kids, we're going to watch the insects get eaten.
Or survive.
That's a library. Now
That's life.
That is a library thing that
life.
I would come and
There you
attend
go.
myself. If it were a death battle between the different things that you brought in for the kids to explore, and it was like, all right, we've seen these animals. Now we're going to put them in this arena, and we're going to see who lives.
Insects versus reptiles.
I would show up for that.
Chris Lanuti will be.
I'd MC that.
We'll be doing the play-by-play call.
I would MC. I once got to MC a UFC fight back in its infancy when nobody knew what it was, like in the late '90s, where I got inside of the octagon and did the whole thing where like introducing the stage
mic
was
comes
exploding.
down.
Like they couldn't find an announcer, so they went to the local radio host and asked me to do it in Wheeling, West Virginia, and I would just get a kick out of doing that again with insects and reptiles.
With insects, here we go. Well,
or any small animals, whatever you want to do.
There we
Think
go.
about it.
There we go.
I'm always coming up with the best ideas for you.
So we got a whole bunch of other stuff. We have a drive-in movie going on. We have a Lego car races, we do that every year. We have the kids create their own Lego cars and then they race them. We have a candy chemistry and so much more. But a specific shout out, we have Mr. Scott's Giant Bubble Show. That is going to be Friday, July 19th at 6 p.m. It's an after hours event at the library. It's going to be in our library parking lot. We're expecting 150 plus people.
Yeah, giant bubbles.
Big giant bubbles. It's interactive, so the kids will be able to get up and play.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really fun for the whole family.
He's going to do the thing where he's got like the big giant bubble thing, and he wraps it around, and it's almost
he's
like
got a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to be in the library parking lot, so bring a lawn chair. And join us for this interactive bubble experience.
That cannot be rain or shine. So I would imagine if it rains,
it's probably
it won't rain.
We will most likely move it inside, just like what we did
then
with
you got
our.
bubbles. That would be awesome.
With our submarine kickoff party, we had animals. We had goats and other rabbits and everything inside the library.
This is why you go to the library events, to see Frank have to scramble in the moment. To be like, what are we going to do? We're going to have to bring the animals inside the library. Like that decision-making process. I want to see that. That's why I want to go to those things.
It's me. It's not me scramble. It's my amazing staff that just, boom, hey, we already have a plan.
They're
we have a
working
plan
hard.
B and C.
They're working hard, and you're drinking sangria with me. Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of the perks of the job.
I already can't say sangria properly. Okay. What else we got going on?
We have a variety of things going on for teens. A couple quick things I want to shout out. Sweet Saturday, we have some candy sushi making. That's going to be Saturday, July 6th at 3 p.m.
Okay.
You can roll your own candy sushi and share your love for anime and manga with your friends.
You also have a life-size Candyland I see here.
Yes.
Are you aware of this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, because sometimes you're not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like...
Did you know that you're doing this?
Yeah.
Yes.
So life-size
That's gonna be,
Candyland, you sign up for a 30-minute time slot, it says up to 6 players, but what is that? Like you have a board in the parking lot? Like,
it's going to be indoors.
Okay.
So we're
Is there
turning
candy?
the inside of the library into a giant game board.
That's awesome.
Yes. So, and it's running from 9:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So you have all day to come in and participate in the fun. Just make sure you register for that time slot.
All right, life-size Candyland. That looks really... I mean, it does. That looks really neat. You're coming up with some good ones lately. Or your staff is.
Staff.
Your staff's coming up.
I don't think of any of this stuff. I just come on here and drink sangria and promote it. And to stick with the alcohol theme.
Yeah.
Since
Well,
we
we
just
might as well do
mentioned
that.
sangria.
You just reminded me to take another sip.
We have a summer beer tasting event coming up. It's going to be at the end of July, Thursday, July 25th at 6:30 p.m. It is a 21 and over event. We're having back our good friend Scott Poynton. He is a former home brewer of the year, Midwest home brewer of the year. He's also a certified beer judge. Want to figure out how to become a certified beer judge.
Is this the guy that did the beer?
Same guy from the fall session.
He was really good.
In the winter, yeah.
He was really
phenomenal.
good.
He's also a library director. So, he's incredibly smart.
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Like you guys were like, "Hey, Chris, this is up your alley. Like, why don't you go to this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go to the beer tasting event." And I just kind of figured he's not going to tell me anything I don't know about craft beer because I love craft beer and I know how they brew things. I learned over the last 9 months how they make non-alcoholics now differently than they used to because now they brew it and they pull the alcohol out of it. And I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to tell me something I don't know. And I learned a ton of stuff.
Gotcha.
Really good.
He's going to be back there to educate people and then also have samples of some different brews.
Okay.
That are specific to the summer season.
Very, very cool. That's it? We're done?
Oh, I got
Gonna
more.
keep drinking?
I got more.
I want to give you more time.
You want more? All right,
just
great.
dive in there. Just go.
So-
You rattle it all off.
Just
if
go.
I run out of time on the show, it'll all be on the video on YouTube. So it's like extended Frank time.
Oh, extended Frank time?
We have enough sangria here to do a 2-hour to do a 40-minute show, half-hour show. I'll be done with these in a half hour.
There you
Okay,
go.
but dive into it.
So last time I was on the show, we talked about how we lost a very dear friend of ours.
Yes.
Virginia Chandler, a longtime library board member, and then also participated in the Library Foundation. To honor her, we're hosting a variety of different civic-related programs, and in July, we're doing 2. We have Avoiding Scams and Scammers. That's Monday, July 22nd at 1 p.m. We're having Marquette Bank of Evergreen Park come out, and they're going to share the most common types of scams, how you can fall victim to one, what you can do if that does happen to you, and how you can keep yourself safe from those types of scams.
There's a lot of scams now.
It's everything.
Yeah, I mean it's nonstop. I don't trust anything that
email,
gets sent to me.
phone calls, text messages.
Somebody keeps texting me, telling me that they know me, but they won't tell me who they are. And somehow in a text message, they still aren't speaking English very well. And I'm getting them today. It's really weird.
Well, make sure you stop by.
I'm definitely
you
not
can share your experience. Yeah, and I think that's the number one rule that they'll talk about is don't respond. Back to the alcohol. We're going to segue back to the alcohol. So we're having another event at the library, a mead sampling event. And this is with the people over at the Wild Blossom Meadery.
All right, I'm coming to that. When is that?
That is Wednesday, July 31st at 6:30 p.m.
Can I bring my own, made out of bone mead horn? Because I have one of those. I have an actual in the basement bar. I don't think I've ever shown you one of these big, it's like a horn. Like if you had a horn of ale, it's shaped like a horn. It's meant for mead. Can I bring my own?
Yes, bring it, Chris. Bring it.
Because that's what it's meant for.
Bring it. They'll be They're going to provide samples of mead, and you can definitely take that and dump it right into it.
I can dump it right into it. Okay.
Dump it right into it. Yeah. So they're going to discuss their mead.
Pretty big, so I'm going to be drinking a lot of
their
mead.
mead making process. And Chris will be hoarding all the samples.
They're like handing out little cups, and I walk in and just dip my cup into the mead. Bring me meats and cheeses. Yeah.
Get there before Chris does.
I'm going to wear a Viking helmet as well.
There's mead available for you
I'm going to walk
to
in
drink.
with a horned Viking helmet and my horn of ale and just stick it in the mead bucket. Now I hope there's a mead bucket. There's not going to be a mead bucket, though, is there?
Probably not.
There should be.
Because you just ruined it for everybody. Way to go, Chris.
That's what I do. All right, you're going to be at the parade.
Yep, we'll be there.
All right, I'm going to be at the parade. I'm marching in it. I'll see you at the setup.
All right.
And then afterwards, mosey over here.
Yes, Spoken Vine,
They're
everybody.
open until 10 o'clock.
They're open
on
until 10
parade
o'clock.
day. I mean, like, this is where I'll be after the parade. Get out to Spoken Vine. Check out everything that Frank has going on this month. My friend, cheers.
Cheers, Chris.
Do this again next month.
Let's do it. Thank you.
It's the EP Podcast. All things Evergreen Park. It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.